Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your Manchester United 2, Everton 0 reaction in what was a must-win game for Manchester United. Lots to talk about. Get your player ratings in, mark every player out of 10, 6 being the average. You can do that on theunitedstand.com. I'll also whack a link in the video description for you as well now. But look, massive game for Manchester United, and I want to say as well, it wasn't pretty. Why wasn't it pretty? And this is for me why Man United shouldn't be looking to change the manager in the summer, because you need to change the players. You need to change the players, and I actually agree with a lot of people that that was painful to watch at times. But so much of what made it painful were the players. There was a real contrast in the game today. There was players that were up for it and deserve praise. The Garnachos, the Mainus, the Evans, the Delos, the Varans. And then there's the players that are on a lot of money who you look at it and go, on a different day, we could have had our arses handed on a plate. Rashford, Bruno, McTominay, Casemiro, just not good enough. I'm not saying they were shit. Some of you might say that, but just nowhere near the level required. Now, when you're missing simple passes, you know, when you're not running as quick as you can run, you know, when you're not invested as much as we've seen you be invested, it needs calling out. Even though we've won the game 2-0, quite rightly, there are people out there saying, you know, that wasn't a brilliant performance from Man United. And you get this constant style of play thing. Pep Guardiola can't play tiki-taka football when he's got players like that who just aren't interested in passing the ball. Like, it's so evident. I said this in the preview. If we win today, it'll be because of the players. And if we lose today, it'll be because of some of the players. And we saw it today. Some players stepped up for the plate, blocking, passing, tackling, you know, creating, and some players just can't do it. I'm not going to tell you why they can't do it. I don't know why they can't do it. But look, did we see a 2-0 win where every player can walk off with their head held high? No. We saw a 2-0 win where half the team can walk off with their head held high and half of them are still leaving us absolutely baffled as to why they can't put a good performance in for Manchester United. I don't get it. Are they trying to sack the manager? Have they just lost the ability to play good football? But it was a weird game and ultimately very, very happy. I think that Man United winning was all that mattered today. When you look at that league table, I'm not looking at Villa and Spurs. I mean, I'd love it if we can get back into that, but I think that Fulham result probably stops that. What I'm more looking at is that when you look at the league table, we currently are 5 points ahead of West Ham. We are 7 points ahead of Newcastle. And that danger of dropping down the league becomes less by winning today and just giving ourselves a bit of a buffer. The clean sheet as well, I think you've got to shout out the defence. They deserved it. They worked really, really hard. But I do detect that I don't think we've got Liverpool fans dropping in here to troll us. I don't think we've got Arsenal fans dropping into troll us. They've got bigger things to think about, like playing today or tomorrow. The trolls and the moaning will be from Man United fans who I'll say this. I said it after Fulham when we lost. I'll say it after Everton when we win. I think we've got a certain section, a vocal minority, whatever you want to call it, in our fan base that want to lose. I do. I'm not going to pretend that I don't think that's true. I do. I see it. I'm sure you see it as well. I don't think they'll have enjoyed that today. Oh, I don't like that style of football. Fuck off. You know, I've seen Man United play shit under Sir Alex. Win. I mean, surely that's why you support a football club, for them to win. This nonsense of, well, no, I don't have to support it if I don't like it. Well, where have you been all your life? Like, we didn't play brilliantly every week under Sir Alex. We didn't. Like, sometimes you win dirty. Sometimes you win playing bad, but you win. I know that I wouldn't swap this feeling now for drawing that game or losing it. That's a weekend ruiner. I can now go, Man United have won. What's for dinner? I'll have a glass of wine. I'm looking forward to Super Sunday tomorrow. Winning is what matters. And whatever you say about Ten Hag, the reason he has the best win ratio over any other manager in our history is because he finds ways of winning these types of games. You can't dismiss that. You have to respect that. Even if you don't like the manager, you've got to respect the fact that he has this way of grinding out results. And that's very, very important because I don't know how he's managed to do that today. I genuinely don't know how. I thought we started terribly. I've never seen Casemiro play like that, like he did in the first half. I mean, it was almost like he thought he was playing for Everton, the amount of bad passes. But Garnacho was the difference in the first half. I think defensively, I would be tempted to give man of the match to Varane or Evans, but Garnacho's got to be a strong contender because he created 2 goals and we've won by 2 penalties. I don't think if we got those penalties, we score today. I just don't think in open play we looked like we were going to score. It was, indecision, bad decision making. Giving the ball away cheaply, but fair play to Garnacho. He looked the most dangerous attacker. I thought he put a real shift in defensively as well. Mikalenko against him was a really interesting battle, and he came out on top, and he came out on top for Man United with 2 really, stonewall penalties. And look, that's part of the game. If you tackle somebody in the box illegally, you get a foul and it's a penalty, and that's what happened. So we can't be dismissive of the fact that we've had 2 penalties. We've not been lucky. I think we've been unlucky this season in relation to penalties. Garnacho had a big part to play in that. But let's not pretend like when you look at it statistically, Manchester United, there was a lot of shots for Everton again. We blocked them. I don't think Onana ever had to make a save that I thought was world class, which is a good thing. And we know that Everton can be quite wasteful. And I'm sure Sean Dyche will come out again talking about XG. They had 23 shots. We had 15, but they only had 6 on target and we had 8. So across the game, I think that United edged it, and we edged it because of Garnacho and his ability to create those penalties for us. Miserable game to watch, says McElvis, and I think this is it for the rest of the season. Another Murta window this summer, hard to be positive. That was from McElvis. KFJ says Varane and Evans both man of the match. Also embarrassing those who were saying manager out after this game. Parts of the fan base really aren't serious. Buying a left back is a must. Shaw is so unreliable, says Akshay. Delo is our player of the season easily, says Aiden. Heard it here on the United stand in the United States on the telly. Wasn't vintage United, but Viva Vital United, says Ace, the toxic bot. Evans understands what playing for this club means, says Mario Franco. And why did you do a poll, Mark? Eric is doing a better job than anyone else, in my opinion, says Paul O'Connor. Because 82% of you are Ten Hag in on the poll. And I think that this is something that, I think there's a big chance we'll lose next week. There's a big chance we'll lose again. But I'm just very, very grateful that we've got that result, because there are a lot of journalists out there. There's probably a lot of fans out there that are a bit disappointed that they can't continue this media agenda against our manager. And I'm glad I'm in a position now to say what I've wanted to say for a while. There is a media agenda against Manchester United's manager, and he has got the best win ratio. We are the 6th best team in the league. We have had a devastatingly cursed almost season in relation to injuries. Off the field, it's a fucking mess. Yes, Ineos have come in, but where's the director of football? John Murta's still working on the summer, and we know what that means. I just find it ridiculous how every single day there's a story about the manager. And maybe next week we can actually get some stories about signings, because the biggest problem at Manchester United is players. We saw it again today. Garnacho wins the penalties. Varane, Evans, Lindelof, Delo, Onana winners the clean sheet. 3 or 4 other players just aren't Man United quality. And on a different day, we might have lost that game. That's not on the manager. That's not on the manager. He's using players that were here in Van Gaal's days, in Mourinho's days, in Ole's days. That squad needs an overhaul. We need to back a manager, not sack a manager. I mean, I find it incredible that Manchester United and the press are pushing a manager out agenda when it's blatantly obvious to anybody with a brain that we need an overhaul of the squad. We've never, ever stuck behind a manager and got rid of the players. And this is a massive opportunity to do it. I really hope that this win actually allows us to start talking about the real issues, which are, we need to change the players. The players need to go. We need to make some big decisions on big players. And Look, I don't really want Casemiro to go, but based on today's performance, I thought that was really shockingly... I can't even justify that first half. Obviously, some of you will talk about Rashford and Bruno. I think McTominay's ridiculously limited. Even as a bench option, I think he's ridiculously limited. If you want to play a certain brand of football, I don't think he can do it. Would Scott McTominay start for Everton? No, he wouldn't. So why keep him in a system that he doesn't suit? There's no doubt that McTominay serves a purpose in some style of football, but not in the style of football we want to play. That team today is a bunch of misfits. Like, it's like trying to build a Ferrari with parts from a Land Rover, a Vauxhall Astra, you know, a tractor. It's like the parts just don't fit together. It's a team of misfits. You've got a left back who's a centre back. You've got a striker who's a number 10. You know, you've got a winger who just doesn't seem to want to play football at the moment. It's just, and yet you'll get somebody talking about. I guarantee somebody will say, yeah, 2-0, but the style of play is shit. But what do you expect? What style of play do you expect? I'm telling you now for free, you can't judge this manager on the style of play that you're going to see for the next few weeks and months. You're not going to see a style of play. We've not seen a style of play for a decade because we bought the wrong players. You need to buy players that fit the system. In fairness to Sean Dyche, look, they're never going to be in the top 4, but they've got a system. They've got players that suit their system. And that's why when we play Fulham or Palace or Everton, Old Trafford, whether we win or whether we lose, you still look at Everton and go, well, there's a team with a system. They've bought players that suit their system. In the first half alone, I got up to do 5 times United can't even keep me in my seat anymore. A core principle of Sir Alex was the entertainment, says Alec. Eric Ten Hag getting wins with the Frankenstein team, says Pirish. You're exactly right. Eric Ten Hag got rid of a lot of players last summer and we need him to do it again this summer, says Savage. And all that I've played the game Prats that keep talking about style, I cannot speak, says Mr. Cheetah. Ten Hag is papering over the cracks with Hail Mary moments, says NAU. I completely agree. And I think that, you know, when Alec talks about style of play and entertainment, I mean, how many times in that game, and we're going to do player ratings, how many times in that game did we see United give the ball away? I mean, there was one where I think Bruno passed it into Rashford. He loses it, and you know, they're honours. There was another one where Bruno had it, and he's trying to ping it in behind Rashford, and the ball's been given away again. There was another time where Scott McTominay had it, and Garnacho's running ahead of him down the right-hand side. It's a simple pass, and he goes for a Hollywood ball to Rashford, and then it's with Pickford, and they're breaking on us again. We just don't look after the ball. We're not entertaining because we've got players that don't play the right pass. And people will say, well, that's on the manager. It really isn't. If I said to Scott McTominay in training, when you're in a position and you've got Garnacho there and you've got Rashford there, pass it to Garnacho. I've told him. But in the game, adrenaline, decision making, a manager cannot program players like robots. You need the players to play the way that you want to play. He ain't got the players. We haven't got the players. And people need to realise that this conversation can happen. You know, thankfully, nobody in the chat's going, why are we having this chat when we've won a game? Because we're realistic. We can watch a game of football and go, yeah, 4 or 5 players played well. 3 or 4 players played bang average. And this is the conversation that we need to have. We will win games and we will lose games. And the reason we will lose games and the reason we will win games like this is because of the players. But we will not achieve style of play that many people want with these players. It will not happen. Nobody is, going to buy or inherit these players and make us play like we did under Sir Alex or like Liverpool play. We need a massive squad clear out. And if Ineos haven't figured that out and they still think the manager needs to go, well, they're bloody idiots, to be honest with you. This was the game to make those kind of mistakes, says Lieutenant General. Casemiro's left his passing boots at home today for sure, says Michael Ferguson. Can we stop giving the Eric Ten Hag out movement oxygen, says Corey Lineker. You judge De Zerbi with the injuries he has with small club Brighton. Be objective, Mark, says Faz Brighton haven't got the injuries that we've got. They've got far more replacements in key areas than we have, and Brighton have been a better team than United for the last 3 or 4 years. So I'm not having any of this small Brighton shit. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen United go to Luton and get beat 4-0. And I haven't seen us go to Fulham and get beat 3-0. When we get smashed, it tends to be against Man City or Liverpool. We don't get smashed up by Fulham. So you can take your De Zerbi sympathising club and go forth and prosper as far as I'm concerned. And the reason I'm talking about the Ten Hag out movement is because I've seen it on social media already. And I'm sure some of you have seen it as well. There's people out there that are miserable that we've won. Man United fans that are miserable that we've won a game of football. And there'll be journalists that are miserable that we've won a game of football because they can't write about managers for the next week. You know, you just destroyed their week, and they need calling out because, look, I'm happy to have the conversation that we didn't play well. But we didn't play well because as we go into the player ratings, certain players just aren't good enough for Manchester United. It matters not whether we've beaten Everton 2-0 or not. The players are the problem at Man United. And that doesn't mean all the players, but until we actually have a clear out of certain players, then we're going to have the same conversations for the next 10, 15 years. Don't you think we look for Rashi way too much, says Manthan. I don't know that we look for him too much. I barely noticed him second half. You know, you talk about McTominay being a ghost. I don't think we saw much of Rashford at all in the second half. Evans offered another year, says Michael. Well, I think you keep Evans or Maguire, don't you? I think they're very similar. And I'd say you keep one or the other. Thanks for the 12 months, says Celsius. Don't you think when we lose, it's the players' fault? So surely Ten Hag record-breaking win rate is because of the players too. So why would we sell the players who have the best win ratio in history, says Genocide? I mean, if someone wants to work that one out, I don't really have any words for that. I think life's too short to try and explain things to people like that. I mean, what are you talking about? So when we lose, it's the players' fault. So surely Ten Hag record-breaking win rate is because of the players too. So why would we sell the players? Yeah, let's just carry on how it is, mate. We'll win everything. I mean, what are you actually talking about? What we're talking about here is that the reason Man United cannot get in the top 3 is because we don't have the players to do it. Some players played well today. Some players played shit. And that's why we've won a game, but some people will be unhappy with how we played. Because certain players won us the game and certain players just weren't at it. And that's why we're not in the top 3, because you need 11, 15 players that are at it. And we've got 4 or 5 every game. We never have a performance where we have 10 or 11 players doing it. So you need to sell the players that don't do it. I mean, if you can't work that one out, I can lead you to water. This was, anyway, right, let's do the player ratings. Bloody hell, life's too short to be messing around with that. I suppose it takes all sorts, doesn't it? Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Everybody can like football. Right, let's go through the player rating. Ten Hag outers genuinely don't seem to understand what the club's been through in the last decade, says Lewis. I mean, look, respect. If you think replacing the manager's the thing to do, then I don't know what you've just watched. Maguire and McTominay need to go, says Tariq. I mean, I think Maguire's had a good season. I don't think Maguire's had a bad season, but you know, he can't play the style of football we want to play, which is high line. Right. Player ratings. Here we go. Onana, I'd give him a 6.5 today. 6.8's fine. Yeah. Another steady game for Onana. Yeah, I'm happy with the 6.8. Nothing really much to report. The consistency is key, and I think in recent weeks he's getting better and better. I heard it mentioned this week by, I think it was a former United goalkeeping coach, and we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago as well. De Gea didn't start off well. Schmeichel didn't start off well. Onana started off terribly. But, you know, he's not costing us goals. And that makes a big difference. And he's growing in confidence, which is great. Let's hope it can continue. By that logic, the players are why we don't have a style of play, says Kevin. Yes. Can some of you go off and have this chat on the forum, please? I've been streaming for 3 hours and it's not fair. Take it over onto the forum. I don't know what you're talking about. Delo, I'd give Delo a 6.5 as well. Yeah, I think we're in harmony on that one. Yeah, I thought Delo has been, I think Delo's been very, very consistent for us over the last 2 months, and a very important player. And what I would like to see happen is we're not going to get a left back before the end of the season. I mean, fuck knows what's happening with Malacia, and I think Luke Shaw's out for the season. So the best we can hope for is that Wan-Bissaka comes back, put Delo at left back and put Wan-Bissaka at right back, and at least get some balance to the back four. Varane today, Rolls Royce 7.5. I thought he played fantastically well. They tried Beto, they tried Calvert-Lewin, and he was one step ahead of them all game. Absolutely fantastic. Gary says hypocrisy. I tell you what, Gary, if you, instead of typing hypocrisy, please tell me what the hypocrisy is. I'm not a bloody wizard. Neither is Ten Hag, and I don't know what I'm being a hypocrite about. So instead of just writing 2 words, why don't you write the full sentence and, enlighten us with your brilliant knowledge and insight? Because I don't know what you're talking about. Varane, 7.5 for me. In a game where it's very difficult to find amazing performances, I don't think we should go low on the centre-backs who, we've kept a clean sheet against a team that had a lot of shots. And a lot of that was down to brilliant positioning, blocking, marking. They never had a clear-cut chance. They never had a clear-cut chance in the whole game. And that was because our defence, and specifically our centre-backs, played really, really well. Got to be a man of the match contender. Same for Johnny Evans, 7.5 for me as well. Look, Johnny Evans is not the centre-back for Manchester United. Absolutely not. I mean, he can only defend the edge of the box because he's not quick. He can't do it. But his passing was better than Varane's. His passing was on point. He gets what it's all about. And it was a very, very good performance from Johnny Evans, and a leadership with Varane at the back that we needed today. You look around that pitch and there's just people not stepping up to the plate, but the centre-backs did, and that was massively important for us getting a clean sheet. Lindelof, I'd give him a 6.5. He's a bloody nightmare at left back, but it's not his fault. I almost think Lindelof is a free pass. We have got nobody else to play there. He is not a left back. It is a massive weakness. And yet today, he did okay. And fair play. He put a shift in. Simple as that. And it wasn't that bad. Look, honestly, Casemiro's got to be a 5. That first 5 minutes specifically, I think he misplaced about 6 passes. He was better in the second half, and he did make some good tackles. He's a world-class player. I think it's impossible for Casemiro to stink the whole game out. But by his standards, that wasn't a good game today. It wasn't. And it's not an agenda. It's not being harsh. He's way better than that. An average Casemiro performance as a 6 is way better than what we saw today. I've got to give him a 5. It was below par. It was below par. It was inexplicably below par. Thanks for the great takes and deep analysis, says Shahin. Should we focus more on the medical team than the stadium, says Harry. I'm sure we'll be looking at that. Based on some of these comments, you'd think United lost today, says John Stewart. Fernando says Kevin easily earns Pratt of the Week. Stephen, member for 13 months, thank you very much. The people who want Ten Hag out should be able to write stories on the players that are playing crap over trying to get Ten Hag out, says CF Cash. Thank you very much. Yeah, look, I feel like as a community, I just want to say commiserations to those United fans that don't enjoy winning. There's clearly some of you out there. You know what? It's your life. Do you? But I don't understand this modern phenomenon of prioritising you being right over supporting a football club. Never did it with Van Gaal. Never did it with Mourinho. Never did it with Ollie. Always wanted Man United to win. I don't get it, but it's out there. It's out there. It's in there. Kobe Mainu today, 6.5. Yeah, 6.5. I thought he played well in the first half, and he's only a kid. And to be fair, at times he was stuck between a bad Casemiro and McTominay. And you know what? He needs to be looked after at times. He's only 18, and he was the one midfielder that was actually providing some stability. So yeah, 6.5 for me. Bruno, 5. I don't think it was a good... I'd love to give him a 6, but I don't think it was a good performance from Bruno again. I don't. I really don't. And I just don't. And somebody's probably going to Statman Dave it and put out all these passing stats and running around and tackles. But I get that. That's what Bruno is. Like, I'm not going to give him an average when he's below average. I know what Bruno is. I haven't seen that Bruno this year. Week after week after week, it's this performance. This is not... I'm not going to give... I'll tell you why I'm not going to give him a 6. And I did think about it. If I give him a 6, that's average, and that's accepting that that's an average performance for Bruno. That is not an average performance from Bruno. That is not the level he is at. We are still seeing this below average Bruno. If you think that was an average performance from Bruno, where have you been for the last 3 years? What we're seeing from him at the moment is way below. Now, he wasn't terrible today. I wouldn't say he was shit, but it's still not the Bruno that we know and love. Like, it's not. And I don't know why. Maybe it is the volume of games. You're never going to see Bruno not run around. He's everywhere. And I won't criticise him on that. But I still don't think we're seeing anywhere near what he should be. I get why it's a 5.8, and I get why a lot of you give him a 6, but I think if we accept that as an average performance from Bruno, then we're losing sight of the player that he is. McTominay, I mean, you know what? By his standards, I probably, I judge Bruno from a far higher level than McTominay. I mean, basically, that was an average McTominay game. That was an average Scott McTominay game. If he doesn't score a goal, what does he do? There was a few good passes. There was a couple of tackles. There was a couple of blocks. I don't think he was shit. I just think he ain't good enough. And that probably was a typical 6 performance from him. Because if he doesn't score, what does he do? Garnacho, 7 or a 7.5. I'd go 7.5, and I will give him man of the match because games are about winning. And we wouldn't have won the game if it wasn't for him. I thought Evans and Varane were brilliant. They got the clean sheet. Garnacho got the goals. With Evans, if you take Garnacho out, we draw the game. If you got Garnacho, you win the game. And we needed the win. And I said before the game, we can't draw. We certainly can't lose. We had to win, and it's because of him that we won. And I thought it was nice from Garnacho as well because he's still a teenager. He's still learning, and yet he's winning his games. And I think, actually, last couple of games, he's not played that well. I don't think he played that well against Forest or Man City. You're going to get that inconsistency. He's only a kid. You've got to be honest about the games where he doesn't play well, but you've also got to be reasoned and say that will happen. It will happen with Mainu as well. He's still ridiculously young. So is Rasmus. But today he's the match winner. And, he's carrying this team. I think Garnacho's player of the year. I know people talk about Delo, but look, that was against Everton and again against Everton. He won us the game today. And, I think people don't understand what he's doing at 19 years of age in a really bad team. Imagine what he'd be like in a Man City or a Liverpool with people who know how to keep hold of the ball and nurture him. He's taking the response. He's the best attacker again. He's had a better game than Rashford, Bruno and McTominay. He's got a lot of responsibility on his shoulders, and people don't appreciate that enough. We're with you, Mark, says Manthan. Bruno is stat padding, but the reality is not good, says Triggered Salt. Michael Ferguson, thank you very much for joining the members club. Whatever Ineos do with the manager, I will be okay, says Jason. Thank you very much for that. Rashford, 5. Yeah, I give him the same as Bruno. I mean, it was below average. I didn't really notice him in the second half. Good penalty, same as Bruno. Very good penalty. But I didn't think he was in the game. I didn't think it was a lack of effort. I just don't think he was in the game. Now, why is he not in the game? I don't know. Garnacho, I noticed him when he was on the pitch. Rashford, I didn't really notice him a lot. He just wasn't in the game. Sometimes you've got to go and get the ball. I think Garnacho's brilliant at that. He'll start making angled runs in the other side of the pitch. But Rashford just seemed to stay out on the left wing for most of the game. I don't really notice him getting involved in the play. He's a star player. He's a star player. And the same as Bruno, it's just not the standard that we need from him. It's interesting. I think Rashford's face told the story when he walked off. I was looking at the TV when he walked off at the end. And I think he knows he didn't have a good game. You can see it in his face. He looked like he'd put a lot of effort in, but you could tell by his face that he just didn't look happy. And I think that's because he knows that he didn't really have a great game. Ten Hag, 6. Yeah, 6. He deserves credit for the win. But, you know, it's a misfit. You can't judge style of play with misfits. You can't judge style of play when you've got 3 or 4 key players not playing well. And I think he'd be the first person to admit that that game was won by Garnacho in the defence. It wasn't won by tactics. And, you know, I think a 6 is completely and utterly fair. Amrabat, 6. Anthony, 6. And man of the match, Garnacho, 67%. I can tell you that you've got Johnny Evans and Varane both very close with about 10%. But Bruno got 3%. Fucking hell. Maybe that's trolling. No. Look, to be fair, I think some people thought that Bruno played very well today. So that's absolutely fine. Manchester United win. The weekend is ahead of us. That's what it's all about. And I'm very happy about that. I just hope that we can start talking about players now and not have another week about the manager. You know, I'm sure we're going to lose another game. We're probably going to lose next week against Liverpool. But the March international break is upon us. Man United are talking to players. In fact, I've got to bottom it out, but quite an interesting story coming. But that's what we should be talking about. The one takeaway I take away from today is that we won. We won a game of football. And if you are a Manchester United fan, then this should set up your weekend in a nice way. Like, you should be pleased that we've won a game of football. What you also need to do, in my opinion, is be looking at that game today and saying, we desperately need to buy players. We desperately need to move some players on. We need a cull, and we need to buy some players. And until we bring in 10, 15 players that can all play a certain style of football, then we're going to struggle. Simple as that. And Ash, look, you can say the manager is crap. That is your right. Absolutely. 80% of the poll is Ten Hag in. Manchester United won, Ash. So we've got a manager with the best win ratio in our history. We've won a game of football. I've got a smile on my face. I'm happy. Not because Ten Hag won, because Manchester United won. And if you're miserable because you want to be proven right about a manager and you want him to get sacked, then do you. That's absolutely fine. But I find it amazing. I find it amazing that, you know, you don't enjoy Man United winning. I think that's really sad, because ultimately support is surely about your team winning. It destroys my weekend when we don't win. So, you know, first and foremost, it's a shame that you're sad that your team won, because Manchester United should be above any manager or player or any scenario. And secondly, I will still say to you, this obsession with sacking the manager, I don't see a viable replacement. Nothing makes me excited about replacing Ten Hag. I don't see an Ancelotti or the next Jurgen Klopp. All I see is the same. De Zerbi, Nagelsmann. They will need a clear out of players. De Zerbi cannot get that team to play like Brighton. Nagelsmann can't get that team to play like RB Leipzig. We saw it today. We need to clear out these players. It's the most obvious number one. If you had a pie of 100%, manager out, players out, 95% is players out. We need to change the playing squad. Only when we have the right set of players can you judge a manager. And we don't have them at the moment. Anyway, let's see what they've got to say on the forum, because as we know, there are some Ten Hag outers there, and you may get the sort of conversation you're wanting there as well. Take care, everyone. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'll speak to you in a bit.